Honey, did you know that 4 out of 5 couples fight when they plan their travel?
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. 4 out of 5.
I know. And you know what? That probably causes a lot of anxiety and a lot of takes away the joy of going on that trip. So you know what we're going to do today? Since we've kind of been doing this for a while, we've got some tips on how to help you plan together and travel together as a couple and eliminate some of that anxiety and stress of the planning part of your trip.
Let's do that. This is actually video number 2 of a 3-part video series. In the first video, we talked about money and travel, and you can watch that right up here. But in this video, we're talking about the planning process and some great ideas that we have, and maybe some things that we haven't figured out about how to stay married and in love and still plan the perfect travel adventure.
Yeah. I'm Chris. This is Steve. We are with EatWalkLearn. We are full-time traveling nomads. We left Denver in May of 21 with 2 carry-on suitcases. We've been happy ever since.
We have been happy ever since. But really, we're full-time travelers for the last 4 years, and we plan travel all the time because
it's a full-time job.
Always going to different places. I think I looked at a statistic I was adding up that we slept in 80 different beds in the last year. And so that means that we're doing a lot of moving around and a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
And planning travel can cause a lot of stress and a lot of discomfort, and to improve our relationships. Let's get started with our with the first category.
Yeah.
And the first category is called the dream versus the reality.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people, when they sit down to plan their travel, they're like, let's go whale watching in the Bay of Cortez, and let's drink margaritas and eat tacos and lay on the beach every day. And their spouse is like, I don't want to do that. I just want to hike, or I want to go skiing in the Alps. It's a big difference.
Yeah, or even if you have this dream of, what you want to do, I'm going to climb Mount Everest, or I'm going to, go on the worldwide cruise. And then you find out what's actually involved in planning that and how much it's going to cost and what is the whole process. There's also can cause a lot of conflict and a lot of stress.
Yeah, so because we do so much planning, you guys have been following us for a while, our number one goal whenever we pick someplace is the weather. We are always looking for 72 degrees, 20 degrees for our Canadian friends, everywhere around the world. And that's our first guiding principle. Is it 72 degrees? Yes or no? And when do we need to be there for it to be 72 degrees? So the second thing we do, and we need to give a big shout out to our friends Kirsten and Peter. They introduced us to this concept. We were already doing it, but we didn't have the terminology for it. Kirsten told me about the difference between places that you are being and places that you are doing. So is it a being place or is it a doing place? For example, a being place is especially in full-time travel, you just need to have some downtime. You're relaxing. Maybe you want to catch up on some movies. You want to do your own personal habits and hobbies. You just want to relax. You don't want to worry about having to get around to all the tourist destination places. Versus the doing locations, this might be, for example,
we went to Patagonia just a couple of weeks ago, and we were out hiking and adventuring every single day. Just before that, we were in Buenos Aires for a month, and you'd think in a month we could just kind of settle down and relax, but Buenos Aires is a fantastic city, tons of things to do, and we had an amazing social life while we were there. There were people always around, and we were having parties and activities just about every day.
Right, so we thought it was going to be a being place, but it ended up being a doing place. So after 2 months of doing, by the time we got to Viña del Mar in Chile, which is where we are now, we needed a being place. So as we plan ahead, we try to plan 6 months ahead, and what we realize is every second or third month or so, we switch between being and doing. So sometimes we have maybe 2 months of being and then a month of doing. So we kind of understand our rhythm and our flow, and as we're planning in the head, if we have come to a stopping place and we go back to that place to do some planning, we look to see, well, were we being or were we doing? And then maybe make a plan on the next leg to be a doing plan because we were in a being plan before that.
Another thing that being, it gives you an opportunity to do your own thing. So we each have our own individual interests, and that's really important to consider when we're doing our planning process, because we are, traveling full time. We got to have those opportunities for us to do, writing. We both like to write. We both like to work on videos. We're doing creative things like Chris likes to crochet. We want to be able to plan that into our activities. So, we are together 24/7, but this gives us an opportunity to do some things that we like individually and spend some time on our own.
And even if you're just on vacation, if you're on a week vacation, even within that vacation, you might have a being day versus a doing day. Especially if you had a week vacation, you've had 4 days of doing, you might need a being day where you just hang out by the pool and you read your novel or whatever. So
Exactly.
it's a good pattern to know when you're being and when you're doing.
Right. So in the last one of our guiding principles, although there are some minor ones, is we want to be in places that I like to say are affordable, but we're looking more at our budget in mind. So we're not always going to places that are high cost places. We're balancing that off with some places that are more affordable and more budget minded. In our last video, we spent a lot of time talking about finances and how money can cause a big issue when you're traveling, and just kind of want to reiterate this in this particular video, that important point about considering your finances and being in communication and sharing those ideas while you're in the planning process.
So even if you're on vacation, budget is really relevant. So even the day-to-day of your budget, are you going to be spending $75 a night for dinner? And are you going to be going out to brunch every day? How many times are you going to eat out? Are you going to go down to the grocery store, grab some bagels and keep them in your hotel room for the week so you're not spending money on breakfast? Or is it really important that you're having a beautiful bottle of wine every day at lunch? Like, these are important things to think about in your budget, not just the overall, I'm going to spend 10 grand or 5 grand or 3 grand, but also that daily expectation of how much you spend for different items on your trip.
Right.
Okay, so the first step was that dream versus reality. Our second step is the power of collaboration. Holy cow! Is this important, especially for 24/7, 365 couples like us?
Yeah, and we see this. We've talked to other full-time traveling couples, and they talk about which one does the work and which one has the effort of the planning. And we've seen all kinds of different variations on this. The way Chris and I like to do things is we like to kind of divide things up equally. We're both really good at logistics, and we're really good at planning and really good at figuring things out. So we like to share those strategies and those things that helps us feel like we're collaborating and we're both sharing in the responsibility. I think Chris mostly, I guess, works on travel, like transportation, like airlines and rental cars and things like that. And I tend to do more of like the accommodations of, where are we going to stay? Are we going to stay in a hotel or Airbnb or, that type of thing.
Or a house sit.
Or a house sit.
I think about cruises. He thinks about house sits.
That's right. And then also, she's really good at the social aspect of it, right? Planning activities with other people. And I think, I'm good more at figuring out the activities. Like once we get to a destination, knowing that, on a particular day, here's how we're going to plan a particular activity and here's how we're going to get there. So I think we have things divided up really well. And of course, again, we talk about this. So if one person is busy working on a video or something like that, the other person might do a little bit more. So we feel like we're equally sharing in the responsibilities of the planning.
Yeah, and a little shout out for the social part of it. If you want to be social while you travel and you want to be social with other nomads, join our Facebook group here, which is all about other nomads connecting and being social with each other. So join us there. And then finally, within this power of collaboration, if you don't have trust, we mentioned this in our last video, I trust that Steve's going to book an accommodation that I'm going to like. You're also not going to have the intimacy and the bonding that you need. So the more trust, the more intimate and bonded you'll be. And it's certainly an important point that the trust is even on the little things, the trust needs to just be assumed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really a good segue into the third section of this, which is the logistics, really kind of getting deep into some of the rules that we have about travel days and how we navigate this world together.
Yeah.
So what are some of our logistics rules? If you will?
So and shout out to all the other nomads. We talk about this all the time in our group, and we share this when we get together. But the collective, we're not necessarily the originators of some of these ideas, but they certainly some of them might be. So number one, on travel day, there is no blaming. When you show up to the wrong place because someone put the address wrong on the confirmation, there's no blaming. It's like, okay, wrong place. All right, we'll just get another Uber and we'll go that way.
My favorite is in Google Maps when they kind of just send you in the wrong direction, and for 5 minutes you're walking in completely the opposite direction of where you're supposed to go, and then Google Maps kind of spins it around. It's like, no, you're supposed to be going back the other way. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. GPS is not working for me today.
Yeah, Google is a lying blank is what we usually say. Okay, number two is, and sometimes we have really a hard time remembering this rule because we're like, oh, it's only a half a mile or it's only a mile. We must get an Uber or shared or taxi or whatever when we arrive in a location to get to a location. So, you've arrived on a plane, you need to get to your apartment, Uber. You arrived at the bus station, you need to get to your condo, Uber. The reason why is because Google may be telling you how to get there, but addresses in foreign locations, they're always a little cattywampus. And you think 123 Main Street's going to be on the odd side of the street, but it ends up being on the even side of the street. And having the local driver help you figure out where something is invaluable. It is worth the extra money, even though the bus was $2 and the cab ride was $20. That $18 goes a long way in actually getting you to your destination at the very end when you're tired and you're hungry and you're in a new location and possibly even a new language.
Yeah, and we do a lot of walking, and that's something that we really, again, in collaboration, and we talk about it together and shared values in not getting into a taxi when we don't have to. We want to be able to walk and explore and places like that, but especially new places, like Chris said. When you're coming from an airport and it's 8:30 at night and you're trying to find your Airbnb and you don't know, you've never been to this place before, let somebody else help you figure that out, and let's take the stress out, even if it is only a mile walk. A mile, it could take you half an hour over cobblestones carrying luggage. Our carry-ons do great on cobblestone luggage, or cobblestone streets. But you know what? I don't want to do that late at night. And speaking of late at night, that takes us to our fourth rule. Now, I have to call out my mom and my sister here. Love them dearly. But if you ever call them up and you say, hey, let's take a trip, they're going to say, let's take the first flight out. And even if it's a 6 o'clock flight or 4 o'clock flight or whatever, they want to be on that first flight out because they want to be ahead of the traffic for the day, and there's no delays on the first flights. And those are really valuable points to be made. But for us, what we're realizing, the more we travel and the longer we travel, that those early morning flights and those late night flights, all they do is produce a ton of stress. We don't sleep the night before. Right. We worry all night long. Is the cab going to show up? Are the trains going to be running? What if we miss the flight? All of that is not worth the anxiety. Yeah. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes the only flight you can get is the one at 6:30 in the morning, and you have to do it. But then plan around that and know that, hey, this is going to be a day that there's going to be some anxiety, there's going to be some stress.
And maybe even if you have an early morning flight, stay at the airport the night before. Pay the extra money to stay in the airport hotel or the hotel right across the street from the airport. That totally eliminates all of your stress of that transit to the airport in the morning. You can just get up, roll out of bed, and walk down to your gate, which is lots to be said for that. Exactly.
Travel days can be stressful. We got a couple more tips about travel days. What's your
I like the next. This is my favorite one. Now, I have to give a shout out to Kathy. Yeah, Kathy and Tim. They have a channel, Taste Life with Us. Kathy calls it "Just Eat the Bag of Chips." Just eat the bag of chips. What she means is, always have snacks and water with you. But in particular, I think when I travel, there's a couple with diet and exercise and eating well and being healthy and all the rules that you try to follow every day in your life. On travel days, I always want to try to do something healthy because you eat the healthy thing, you feel better. But sometimes a bag of chips is what you want, and it's the only thing available, and you just eat it. Don't worry that today you're going to eat French fries and pizza. I mean, if you can eat a healthier version of pizza, do it. But just don't worry about it. Eat the food. Avoid the hangries. If you have to eat on the plane and pay the extra money to get a snack on the plane, just do it, because being hangry and traveling on a transition day with your spouse, it doesn't get any more stressful than that.
Yeah. And I like to think about it a couple of ways. One is to have something with you on days where there's going to be a lot of stress, like some nuts or something like that, and a bottle of water. Plan for that. Know that you're going to need that. Kind of have your backup, like just in case. Pull out this bag of nuts if you need it.
You know what, honey? You don't need the snacks. It's I need the snacks, and I think you carry them so that I don't get hangry.
It's self-preservation for me. But the other is, like, we're talking about budgets again. We talk about, spending and money causing stress. I used to hate buying things at airports because I knew that no matter what, you're going to buy a cheese sandwich that's going to be $20 because you're at the airport. And, that's just... I guess I'm kind of over it. I know that it's going to cost a lot of money. Don't even ask how much it's going to cost. You want the cheese sandwich, get the cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
So
because it doesn't really. I mean, and at the end of the day, is a $20 cheese sandwich going to make you have to go back to work? No.
I hope not.
Yeah. God, no. Let's hope not. All right. The last tip we're going to share with you, and this is probably the most valuable tip that we could share with you. I don't know. The hangry tip's pretty good, but
yeah, that's a good one.
Have your travel details on your phone on a shared calendar that both of you have. Why is this important?
Yeah, well, I mean, you might get separated is one thing. We don't want that to happen, but if it does happen, man, could that cause a lot of stress. But, make sure that you've got all your details on the calendar so you know what confirmation numbers, addresses, names of places, you've got a telephone number. All that information is on a shared Google Calendar that we have. We talked about this in the last video. Mm-hmm. Reiterate that again. Again, as part of the collaboration, we're doing this together. We're helping each other out. We want to share this information. We don't want to keep things like secret, like, I'm not going to tell you where we're going or what we're doing. So it's on the calendar, and it's visible, and it's available. A lot of people use a lot of different kinds of apps like TripIt or things like that. We just figured that Google Calendar just works for us, and it's always come through for us, and have been there when we need it. So,
and it's also good in case one of us loses our phone or the battery goes dead or whatever. We both have the information, and we both can make our way to our destination without having to rely on each other if one of us isn't available for whatever reason. So thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We love it that you're here. We've got our third video coming up next week, which you're absolutely going to love because we've got special guests coming on to talk about how, as couples, they keep the spark alive. And we're going to talk about the 3 C's and 1 S. Anyway, this time we really are grateful that you helped us get through step 1, the dreams versus the reality, and step 2, the power of collaboration, and step 3, working on your logistics. We hope we've given you some tools to help out. We want you to comment below on some of your tips. What are your logistics tips or your collaboration tips or your dream versus reality tips? Because we love to hear them, and maybe we'll even feature them on our next video. We'll see you next week with our couples from around the world telling their 3 C's and 1 S to how to keep love alive as you travel.